If you have a military Humvee, you have a ticking time bomb on your hands. If you stick around, I'll help you disarm it. And no, I'm not talking about the engine. I'm talking about your mechanical injection pump. The 6.2 and 6.5 liter GM diesel engines use a Stanadyne DB2 rotary injection pump. And that pump depends on diesel fuel, not just for combustion, but also for lubrication. So here is the question. Is today's diesel fuel providing everything that old mechanical injection pump needs? And if it isn't, should you be adding some sort of lubricant additive? Or is this just another diesel internet myth designed to sell you a bottle of something like magic snake oil? Today, we're going to separate the fact from the folklore and look at what fuel lubricity actually means for your Humvee. First, you need to understand what you're dealing with. Your Humvee's DB2 is not a modern common rail injection system. It's an old school, mechanically controlled rotary injection pump. Inside that relatively small housing are precision components that have to move, rotate, and maintain extremely tight clearances. You've got the distributor rotor, a hydraulic head, advanced mechanisms, plungers, rollers, and other precision surfaces operating under demanding conditions. And here's the important part. The fuel passing through the pump is part of the lubrication system. There isn't a separate engine oil circuit feeding the internal components of the DB2. The fuel itself has to provide enough lubricity to minimize the wear on those precision components. So, when we're talking about fuel quality, we're not just talking about whether the engine will run, we're talking about what the fuel is doing inside the injection pump. Now, let's talk about modern diesel fuel. This is where a lot of people get the story wrong. You will hear people say, they removed the sulfur, so now diesel fuel doesn't lubricate anything. Well, that's not really the correct explanation. Sulfur itself isn't the lubricant. The problem is that the refining processes used to produce ultra-low-sulfur diesel can also remove naturally occurring compounds that contribute to fuel lubricity. That's one reason modern diesel fuel specifications include a lubricity requirement. In the United States, diesel fuel is regulated under ASTM D975, and lubricity is measured using a standardized laboratory test called the High-Frequency Reciprocating Rig, or HFRR. So, modern diesel isn't simply dry fuel. Commercial diesel is formulated to meet the applicable fuel specifications. But there can be still differences between fuels, suppliers, formulations, and additive packages. And that's where this gets interesting for old mechanical injection systems, such as those on the Humvee. Here's how fuel lubricity is tested. A small steel ball is rubbed against a steel surface while immersed in the fuel being tested. After the test, scientists measure the wear scar left behind. The measurement is expressed in microns. Generally speaking, a smaller wear scar indicates better lubricity. So instead of arguing about whether a particular diesel fuel is good or bad, we can actually measure one important characteristic of that fuel. And that's useful because the DB2 is a precision mechanical pump. The question isn't simply, will my Humvee run on this diesel? Of course it will, hopefully. The question is a better question, which is how well is this fuel protecting the precision components inside my injection pump? This is where I think Humvee owners should pay attention. Does every tank of diesel absolutely require an additive? I wouldn't necessarily make that claim, but Today's commercial diesel is required to meet fuel specifications, and many fuels already contain additive packages. But can a properly formulated diesel lubricity additive improve the lubricity characteristics of fuel? And yes, it can. And that's why I personally look at a quality lubricity additive as inexpensive insurance for an older mechanical injection system. You're talking about adding a relatively small amount of a product to a tank of fuel versus potentially replacing or rebuilding an injection pump. That's a pretty simple risk calculation. But, and this is important, not all diesel additives are the same. I'm specifically talking about a product designed and formulated to improve diesel fuel performance and lubricity. I'm not talking about pouring random chemicals into your tank. There's another interesting option that a lot of people don't think about: biodiesel. Even relatively small amounts of biodiesel can have a significant effect on fuel lubricity. That's one reason biodiesel blends can produce very good lubricity characteristics. But there's an important distinction here. I'm not telling you to blindly put any fuel or any concentration into your Humvee. You still need to consider fuel quality, storage, water contamination, oxidation stability, temperature, seals, and the manufacturer's recommendations. For most Humvee owners, the simplest approach is going to be a high-quality commercial diesel from a reputable supplier, combined with a properly formulated additive if you choose to use one. And this brings me to something else. The internet is, of course, full of old school diesel recipes. Dude, throw some ATF in there. Bro, add some two-stroke oil. Man, just pour in some used motor oil. Mix this with that, blah, blah, blah. I'm not interested in experimenting with an expensive injection system just because somebody on the internet says that they've been doing it for 30 years. If you're going to use an additive, use a product that is actually formulated and tested for diesel fuel. Don't turn your Humvee's fuel tank into a chemistry experiment. But here's the bigger point. Fuel lubricity is only one thing that can kill an injection pump. Water contamination is a huge concern. Dirt and particulate contamination are a concern also. A neglected fuel filter is a concern. Air getting into the fuel system is a concern. Fuel that's been sitting around for long periods can create its own problems. And overheating, improper maintenance, and normal wear can eventually take their toll as well. So if you want your Humvee to last, don't obsess over one magic bottle. Take care of the entire fuel system. So here's what I'm doing with my own Humvee. I'm using a quality diesel fuel. I'm keeping my fuel system clean. I'm staying on top of the fuel filter changes. And when I use an additive, I'm using one specifically designed for diesel fuel and following the manufacturer's recommendation for dosage. Why? Because I look at it as cheap insurance for my Humvee. I'm not claiming that an additive makes an injection pump immortal and will last forever. Obviously, it may not. What I'm saying is that the fuel passing through the pump is responsible for helping lubricate its precision components, then maintaining good fuel quality makes sense. So, is your Humvee sitting on a ticking time bomb? Maybe. But the good news is you can do something about it. Take care of the fuel system, use good fuel, keep water contamination out, maintain your filters, and if you choose to use a lubricity additive, use a quality product designed for the job, not some mystery recipe from the internet. Because rebuilding a DB2 injection pump isn't exactly the kind of maintenance most of us want to add to their weekend schedule. And that's the whole point of maintaining an old military vehicle. Don't wait for the expensive failure before you start protecting the expensive parts. If you want more practical Humvee maintenance tips from somebody actually wrenching on one, Please subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next one.